Welcome to Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I'm Cary Quashen, along with my co-host, Michael Duarte. Wait a minute. Michael Duarte's got a new name. You know what we're calling him over at Henry Mayo? We're calling him Michael Duarte the Silver Fox.
The Silver Fox.
The Silver Fox. So, Mike, exactly. Do that again.
I can't do it. My voice is
Michael Duarte, the Silver Fox. I love it.
Well, there's worse things.
And they, you know, the nurses said Anderson Cooper has nothing on you.
Oh, wow. All right.
I loved it. It was great. So Families in Action is brought to you by your local hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. And I can't tell you how much we appreciate it, huh, Mike? It's been, almost 13 years?
I'll say. Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing. So, I mean, that is great. And also by Action Family Counseling, which is full-fledged. We do rehabilitation centers. We have live-in centers and outpatient clinics and all kinds of stuff when it comes to alcohol and drugs and mental health issues. And also Action Family Foundation, which we do a ton of stuff. I mean, we could spend the whole day talking about that.
Well, I have to say that I saw
I
for the
knew
very
it.
first time
I knew you were going to say that. Yep.
Driving by your headquarters, I saw the Experience vehicle out there. Sharp looking.
Is that cool?
It is very cool.
So the Experience is it's our latest tool for our toolbox in the fight against drug abuse. And what it is, it's kind of sad. It's a driving, moving memorial.
Oh, I remember them talking about that. Yeah.
Right. So we have somebody can come in there, and what an experience they're going to get, because there's going to be TV monitors and sound systems, and they're going to hear somebody saying, "I lost my kid, and here's what happened," and then bang, another one. And the great thing about it is digital, so we can remove it, change it, put it in auditoriums, and do whatever we want with it. So
it's very sharp looking, and it's going to make an impression wherever it goes.
Yes.
Just when people see it.
Yes. No, I absolutely agree. Yeah, I would like to take credit for that, but I won't. That was one of Carl Goldman's genius ideas, and what a great idea!
It was a phenomenal idea. It's a one of a kind, isn't it? I mean, we don't know of any others across the country that do that.
No, I don't know of anything. I never heard of anything like it. I know that when people overdose, people go and they go to parks and they party and they get high in remembrance. And what this is going to do is give them a place to where we can pull up and do that, and there's going to be no drugs.
That's great.
It could be real. So it's kind of it's sad and exciting both at the same time. So hey, Mike, what are we doing today? We're doing it's Domestic Violence Month.
It's
National.
It's National Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
And you know who we brought on with
us?
Our
very special guest today is Linda Davies, who happens to be the executive director of the Domestic Violence Center right here in Santa Clarita Valley.
And by the way, congratulations. I hear you were nominated for one of the top 51.
Yes, I was.
How cool is that? So
yeah, I know. It was kind of surprising to me, too. I was very pleased.
Really, congrats. That's really awesome.
Thank you.
One of the most influential people in Santa Clarita. That is really cool.
Well, it's nice to see the agency get recognized as something that's really needed in the Valley. You know, I think that's been a long time coming. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, we appreciate what you've done. And you know, you said nice to see the company appreciate it. I'm looking at the numbers here.
Right.
And Mike, you said that to me earlier this morning. You were looking at the statistics for domestic violence, and it turned your stomach.
It literally did. I am shocked. I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was that bad. But I am shocked. And I was talking with Linda before we came into the studio, and it is shocking. And I think when we start talking about it, for anyone out there that's listening that hasn't heard some of this, I think they're going to be stunned.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy. But before we do that, Linda Davies, why don't you tell us a little about you and what you're doing and why you're doing it and how long you've been doing it and where you're doing it and all your deep, dark secrets and all that kind of stuff.
Secrets.
Yeah.
All right. Well, actually, I've been at the Domestic Violence Center. It'll be 4 years in March. And what has been very challenging there is that we've brought in a lot more services for everybody. When I got there, we didn't really do a lot with temporary restraining orders. Now we have a court clinic there, and we have court advocates that do that for people because in Santa Clarita we don't have a family like our courts do not have a family law court.
Right.
So we're able to do that now and then send people to see the judge down in Chatsworth or
That's
whatever.
pretty exciting.
It is exciting. You know, we've been doing that for a couple of years.
I
It's
remember
been
we
really
talked
good.
about that last year.
Yeah. And the thing for me is how I got involved with it is I've worked a lot, all my life I've worked with women and children, and worked with families. And so when I came to Santa Clarita, I actually have only been here for 4 years, so this has been my job that I've had since I came back from the East Coast. I really was impressed with the idea of being able...
Not New York.
Not New
So
York.
you can't even call it the East Coast.
Oh,
and
it's
I'm
East
sorry.
Coast. Hey,
You're-
Boston.
That's an imposter.
Boston,
No,
buddy.
no.
Hey, I got it.
All right,
it.
I'll give it to you.
Yeah, and then I was Northeast for a little while. I was in New Hampshire for 12 years, so you want to go...
That don't count at all.
No, it doesn't. No ocean near that one. Oh, on the coast, actually, but I was
Yeah.
kind of mid-state.
Right.
But yeah, so I feel like, I mean, I had domestic violence happen in my early years in my first marriage. It wasn't something, but at that point, actually, Cary, it was it was alcohol that was involved. And so it wasn't something that...
You know, if you take all the drugs, I just think of
Yeah.
that. I was talking to some kids on Friday. We were doing this deal. I was saying, if you took all the alcohol and all the drugs and you just made them disappear,
Yeah.
the amount of sexual abuse, domestic
you're right.
violence, robberies, murders, car crashes, it would almost disappear.
Well, there still would be some because
Well,
when
I
we do,
said almost.
yeah, almost, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think the bad part is that we do have a lot of violence in our culture.
Yes.
And that shows up in the games that we let our kids watch, the video games that are happening sometimes in our sports. We see a lot of violence. And so I think that we are a violent culture and that we don't have enough respect for women in our culture. And it goes way back. I mean, the history of domestic violence started with during the civil rights movement, when women were coming out, when they were talking about the fact that, we're talking about people not having rights. So what about in my home? I don't have rights.
Right.
My husband doesn't like something. He beats me up. He controls my money. Sexually, he controls me. I mean, all these things that came up that all of a sudden we were fortunate enough to really get the Batters Women's Movement happening. And that was the 60s. We're talking 70s.
Y'all couldn't even vote till what year?
Oh gosh, I don't think we're like voting, and I'm gonna be embarrassed when I say this, but I think it was. I can't tell you that because I'm gonna be embarrassed.
You know what,
I think
Will?
it's like the 20s, isn't
Yeah, I
it?
think you're right, but I'm going to look it up.
Yeah,
on
we
our
have to look
break,
it up.
Because
Yeah, I
now
mean-
I'm really curious. But can you imagine that?
No, I can't.
Women couldn't vote till the 20s or whatever
Right.
it was?
Well, the other piece that's hard to imagine is that we had more animal shelters in our country way before we ever had domestic violence shelters for women. All right, so that's kind of sad too,
And
is
that's
that we took care of
kinda-
animals.
that's
Because people
kinda
have always
sad,
thought
yes.
it's a family problem. It's not a family problem, it's a community problem.
Linda, let me ask you, for our listeners, tell us what is domestic violence? I mean, we probably all have our own idea, but tell us what domestic violence really is all about.
Domestic violence is about power and control. It's about a relationship where power is the main factor, whether it be through, it's not just physical violence. Physical violence is what we think about all the time because that is the one that is, that's what the sheriffs go on.
That gets the headlines.
That's going to get that, okay? But it's emotional violence, it's emotional, it's actually psychological, it's financial, it's sexual. I mean, now marital rape is against the law, whereas for years that wasn't against the law.
That's
like
quite
70s.
recent.
Yeah.
That you couldn't
Actually,
report
it could actually be even the 90s, I think, for marital rape.
Well, it was either 70s or 80s, somewhere
Yeah,
around
yeah.
there. But I remember when they were talking that a woman couldn't
Say no.
Couldn't say no.
Now, I mean, we can call
Or a guy
in the
couldn't say
sheriffs.
no.
Or a guy couldn't say no.
Right.
Might be a little bit easier for a guy to say.
Well, you're right, but there
Yeah.
are. I was
I mean,
talking,
I don't
but we were talking today at the hospital, and men get abused too.
Oh, no. 1 in 33 men get abused.
Okay.
Definitely. 1
There
in
you go.
33 men get abused, but 1 in 4 women get abused.
Right.
So when
1
we
in
say
4 women.
1 in 4 women. So when you said, even last year we talked about this, that every 9 seconds somebody gets abused in our country.
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's a big deal.
Well, I was going to say, Cary, let me go down one
Yeah,
of these
please.
lists here that
Do
kind of
that.
helps to put this in perspective for our listeners. And Linda just said the first one. Every 9 seconds in the U.S., a woman is assaulted or beaten. Around the world.
Can you imagine that? I mean, a woman is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. A woman was just beaten.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully she's actually getting some help for that. which is also kind of a big deal, which people don't get out and talk about it that often.
Right. Continuing on, around the world, at least 1 in every 3 women has been beaten, coerced into sex, or otherwise abused during her lifetime. Most often, the abuser is a member of her own family.
1 in
Absolutely.
every 3 women.
Yes.
Yeah. So you figure you sit in a room with women and you know that this has happened to 1 in 3 of them, or 1 in 4 of them if it's just abuse.
Now, the next one really is amazing. Domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women more than car accidents, muggings, and rapes combined.
It's amazing,
Combined.
huh? Yeah.
Cary can't even speak. Isn't that amazing?
No, it's just incredible.
It's unbelievable. Continuing, studies suggest that up to 10 million children witness some form of domestic violence annually.
Wow.
And I've actually heard that as much as 15 million a year.
So before he goes any further, I mean, you see this every day.
Right.
You've been there 4 years. I mean, how many people do you all see? What do you do there?
Well, we see about 1,500 women a year, and women, children, or men. We do have a men's group that meets on Tuesday nights.
That's from the Santa Clarita Valley.
That's from the Santa Clarita Valley. That's
Wow.
from the Santa Clarita Valley. And they're coming to us a lot of times. There is physical abuse, but there's a lot of emotional abuse, a lot of financial abuse. And when we talk about this, I mean, it's really the point that emotional abuse is the hardest one for somebody to recover from, because somebody has just basically ripped your self-esteem to shreds. You feel like you can't do anything. You feel like you're the cause of everything that person did to you. And that is really hard to recover from. And so, we look at people coming in as victims. We want them to become survivors, but then our whole goal is really that they're going to be thrivers, that they're going to get out into their lives, and they're actually going to be able to make a new life where they take what's happened to them and get some strength from it. And that takes a long time for that to happen. So that's why we run about 13 groups a week over at the Domestic Violence Center, the one that's in Newhall. And we have self-help groups, we have codependency groups, we have education groups, we have parenting groups, and we offer them in both Spanish and in English. And we probably see there every week probably close to 60, 70 women that come with their kids to our groups. Our men's group is a little smaller. It's a little harder for a guy to kind of step up. Yeah, okay.
Well, Linda, let me ask you. We should do
Nice.
this several.
We
should
actually
do this.
talked about that today. We're at the behavioral health system, that it's harder for a man to walk in there and say, I'm getting abused.
Absolutely.
Because people look at him and say, what are you, a wimp?
Right. And what we find is they're not wimps at all. What they
No.
are men who know if they fight back that they're actually they're going to hurt the woman. So they're actually sometimes sort of brave in the sense that they don't do it.
Right.
Okay. But it means also, though, how they get how they get into the situation where they have to come and get services from us is that the Department of Child and Family Services may have gotten involved, that a neighbor's heard, or they've gone for help and somebody has called DCFS, and then the children are in jeopardy because he's failed to protect them when the incident happened. And so that's where we see them. They come to us for education classes.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Yeah.
What I was going to say, Linda, is we need to do this several times during the show, but do you have a phone number that somebody could call and give it to us nice and slowly so they have a chance to write it down?
Sure. We have a 30-day emergency safe house that's in Santa Clarita. We also have a 24-hour hotline where you can call and ask for other resources or have somebody to talk to see where you go next or what you need to do. And that number is 661-259-4357, which is 661-259-HELP. That's what 4357 spells out HELP.
And we'll give that several times during the show.
And you got a 30-day what?
A 30-day emergency safe house that's for women who are really in danger for their lives, okay? So you are, that batterer is going to kill you. You have left him for the first 3 days that you're gone. It's the most dangerous time that you're going to have because that power and control has been lost, and so they're really seeking to
And
get
they're
you
tripping.
back and frayed.
Right.
Yeah, they are. And so actually at our shelter, you're not allowed even to go out or make any phone calls for 3 days. All right, because that's the most dangerous time. And Santa Clarita women who need shelter actually go to our shelter for a very short period of time because we move them out of Santa Clarita because this is their danger zone. He's looking all over the place for them. And so then what we do is we get them to another safe place. There's shelters that we are in partnership with that will get our women and take them within like a day. We can get somebody moved out to a shelter within a day to 2 days with her kids. And then she continues her kind of journey at that point. And the people we get are coming from the other areas in LA, Kern County, Northern Ventura County. We go
So
from
you're
all
definitely
over.
moving them out of their danger zone into a safe zone.
We do. And they stay 30 days, but it's their choice. I mean, there may be
Right.
women that come
It's
that
not,
say,
there's no lock bars on it.
no,
Yeah.
no. And in fact, even here, they get to go out after a while. They get to go to certain appointments that they have. We have to get them set up usually with some form of assistance so that they can get back on. Because the other form of domestic violence is really financial. So when a woman chooses to leave, her income's going to drop by 50%, or it's going to drop by 100%, depending on whether she worked in the home or whether she was also working as well, right? And he was the other half of her
Well,
income.
here's a statistic that goes right along with that, and that is domestic violence victims lose nearly 8 million days of paid work per year in the U.S. alone, an equivalent of 32,000 full-time jobs. Wow.
It's because they can't go back to work right away.
They can't go
leave
back
them.
to
They have
work.
they
Yeah.
have to hit it.
Yeah, they do.
Or even worse, they've been physically abused and they're not able to go to work.
Right, that does happen.
92% of women surveyed listed reducing domestic violence and sexual assault as their top concern.
How many women was that?
92%.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
I mean, you figure it for a woman. I mean, if she's not safe in her home, but she's also not safe sometimes on the street either. I mean, if we're talking about sexual assault, that happens. I mean, you have to worry about going to your car at night, where you park.
Yeah.
How you
I
take
mean,
care of yourself.
I live up in San Canyon area.
Right.
And it's dark. I
Right.
told my daughter, when you're driving down the street and there's a car behind you, make sure that you can, slowly go into the yard so you can slowly go out if somebody
Right.
follows you. I
Right.
mean, it's a fear.
Right.
We can even put that into more perspective in terms of the money. Listen to this. Costs of intimate partner violence in the U.S. alone exceed $5.8 billion with a B per year. But listen to that. Out of that money, $4.1 billion are for direct medical and health care services, while productivity losses account for nearly $1.8 billion. We're talking billions here.
But that's why we have to get rid of the stigma, get rid of it. It's not just like when people say, some women will even say, I wouldn't let anybody hit me. It's not as simple as that. We're talking about a love relationship. We're talking about, something that they saw happen in their homes. Both of these, the batterer and the person that's being battered, came from a home where there was mistreatment in the home, whether it be that he was battered and so he's seen that, and that's what they say, is that most batterers have seen battering. It doesn't mean they all will do it, but it does mean that they've all seen it, and the woman basically is coming from a place where her self-esteem has been somehow in her childhood, whether she saw her parents fighting or whatever, but it is a childhood epidemic, and we don't pay enough attention to it, and we don't break the cycle early enough around domestic violence. It's really very scary. And the funding for the kids' programs is not as much as the funding for the shelter programs.
And you know what, Cary, we're going to have to take a break here shortly, but when we come back, they did something great over the weekend. They did their 4th annual Purple Walk of Strength, and we should find out about that.
Okay,
Absolutely.
great. Thank you.
So you want to take us on break?
We will.
Or should we have Linda do that?
Oh, whatever you'd like, Cary.
Well, let's take a break, okay?
You did that good. This is
All right.
Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. We'll be right back.